You are now entering the box. All right, Rabbi Rob, welcome to Inside the Box.
Thank you very much.
What we're talking about though, we used to have it at our old studio, and this was actually our conference room table, our lunch table, our everything. So we'd have to set all the microphones up, set the cameras up, break them down, and it was just a pain in the butt. So that made it really hard to do them consistently.
Right.
Now that we have a dedicated space, it's easier. We just have to make the time to do it.
Right. Yeah, understood.
Because when we're done here, we'll have a video ready to go that we can post like instantly.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it definitely saves a lot of time, and it does make it a lot easier to do it. Just now we just have to get better at scheduling and doing the whole side of it. So yeah, welcome. And for people that don't know you, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Certainly. I'm Rabbi Rob Thomas. I'm from Jacksonville, Illinois, in Morgan County, just down the road from here. Was born and raised in Jacksonville, went away for a whole long time, various careers and things, and came back about 3.5 years ago.
Nice. Okay, so I have to ask right off the bat, Rusty tells me you have a whole bunch of tanks.
I do. Every rabbi should have a hobby.
So what's up with that?
So I have the world's largest collection of operational World War II tanks. The key word there is operational. There are bigger collections out there.
Yeah.
But mine are all fully functional.
That's crazy.
So I buy them wherever I find them, bring them back. We restore them, restorations, 2 to 5 years, and then we take them out all over the country and demonstrate them. We do mock battles, firing demonstrations, obviously blanks.
Yeah.
But that way people can connect to their grandparents. Like my grandfather was in a tank in World War II. What was that experience like? Well, now you can see it, smell it, taste it, feel it, right? In a way that a book or a movie or a museum can't really convey. So I've been doing that probably about 10 years. Yeah, just about 10 years.
What got you into that?
Well, I was in the military.
One, like, okay.
I was in the military and caught the green disease early.
What branch?
I was in the Navy.
Okay.
I was a corpsman with the Marines, and then I did some other things in the military as well. I was always out in the field, always stomping around somewhere. And I told my wife, this was obviously years ago, I said, I'd really like to have a World War II Thompson submachine gun, like the real deal. I'd take it to a range and fire off a couple magazines. It'd just be fun. And she said, well, that's a very good idea. So I found a Thompson, and you have to go through a lot of licensing, of course, background check and all that, to have something that's fully automatic. And while I was waiting for all that to come through, I found a World War II grease gun. I'm like, well, if you're going to have a Thompson, you got to have a grease gun, right? Went through the background check and all that. And then a friend of mine reached out to me. At that point, I had all my licensing, and he said, hey, I've got a World War II M2HB. It's a 50 cal machine gun. It was my grandfather's.
50 cal machine
50 cal machine gun, so 70 pounds of epic. And I had actually fired them when I was in the military, so they haven't changed a whole lot. We still use them today. And he said, I'm closing my business. I either have to sell it or I have to crush it. Right? You have to destroy it. That's the rule. And he said, I just don't want to do that, but I don't know what else to do. So I went and looked and bought it. I brought it home. I had a pedestal mount for it. So I set it on our garage floor, and my wife comes out and she says, oh my gosh.
How big is this thing?
It's, about 4 feet.
Okay.
4 feet, and again, 70 to 80 pounds, depending on configuration. And she said, oh my gosh, that's way too big to carry. And I said, it's funny you should say that. So then I bought a Jeep, a World War II Jeep that would carry the 50 cal. Then I bought a scout car, reconnaissance car, World War II. And then, as my wife likes to say, it was downhill from there.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So how many tanks do you have that sets this record?
So I have 35 fully operational and functional tanks. We have about another 5 that are in various states of restoration.
Wow.
They're almost all American tanks. I do have 2 replica that are operational. I have 2 replica German tanks. The reason for that is when we go out and do a battle and demonstrate for people what our boys experienced and faced and overcame, you got to kind of have both sides on the field.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not telling the complete history. So sometimes people will say, well, you're a Jew, you're a rabbi. Is it odd to have German militaria? Well, I have to tell the story.
Right.
I have to tell the whole story, right? So when people say, well, you're a rabbi, why do you have tools of war? And I said, I don't see tools of war. I see tools of liberation.
Yeah.
So it's important to continue to tell that story, and we like to tell it very viscerally.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, the my grandfather fought in World War II, and he was in the Navy as well. But and I didn't even know this was a thing until he told me he did it. He flew planes, though, in the Navy. I didn't even know you flew planes in the Navy. When you think of the Navy, you think of boats, you know.
Right.
And him and my grandma met because she taught him to fly.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So he flew a bomber, and it was painted all black, and he said he'd fly at night. And, bomb.
Yes.
So I have his World War II knife that he would keep on him in case they go down or whatever.
Right. Yep.
So it's pretty cool. It's like, it's all black, but it's like kind of fading out stuff. So it doesn't, so he said so, or my dad told me so, like it wouldn't reflect or whatever,
That's
you
right.
know, and give away where you're at if you have to use it.
That's right. Yes.
That's cool though. What an interesting thing to get into. Man, 35. So you just got like a big warehouse or something?
I have a big
Multiple
tank
places?
farm
Yeah.
down in Florida where I raise free range armor. It's much happier that way.
Mm.
But we have to have the space to train. So you just can't be a Yahoo in a tank.
Yeah.
These vehicles were designed to kill, and they don't care who they kill.
Mm-hmm.
So we gathered, that's my full-time staff of about 9, and all the volunteers, about another 35.
Wow.
We gather every month for a weekend, and we train.
Cool.
We train for rollovers. We train for fires. We train for CASEVAC, casualty evacuation. And, of course, we train on the tactics and the operation of the vehicles and the weapons platforms. We want to honor the men who served in those tanks.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to do it right. But it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of fun,
Yeah.
as you can imagine, but it's a lot of hard work.
That's cool. So do you have like land where you can kind of drive on, do different things, I assume?
We do. I have about
that's
130
cool.
acres. We built out a World War II proving ground. So we built out the training space as the boys would have seen in World War II.
Mm.
And so we follow that same training regimen, which means when we go out in front of the public, it looks like we are World War II tankers.
Okay.
We behave as they do. We look as they do. I shave off my goatee.
Nice.
And we speak as they do. So if people can hear us at all during the course of a battle or a weapons demonstration, they will hear the language of the 40s as conveyed through the commands we issue within the tank.
Wow. That's cool. So how many places have you gone? Like, I'm sure, how long have you been doing this?
About 10 years.
So you've probably done it all over the place.
We've done it all, mostly east of the Mississippi. There are a couple groups that sort of cover west of the Mississippi. It's slowed down a lot since COVID. You know, we were going 6 to 8 events a year prior to COVID. COVID, everything shut down. Since COVID, we maybe do 3 or 4. A lot of it is those venues have changed hands. Tanks are damaging the grounds, right? And maybe they're not keen on the cleanup that comes after that. So it's fewer events now.
Okay. So you keep most of that in Florida, though? Because I assume it would be pretty hard to bring that stuff to Illinois.
Well, you know, Illinois has different laws, of course, at the state level, but I'm federally licensed.
Okay.
So all of the licensing I have is with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. We are licensed at the highest level you can be for both weapons and ammunition, black powder. So we don't really have challenges with state laws.
Okay.
It's more about having enough ground year-round where you can get those tanks out running. You know, it's just like a car. You can't let it sit, right?
Yeah.
So we run the tanks every other day.
Wow.
Which in Florida is easy to do. You know, maybe it's cold 40 degrees, but it's not snowing. In Illinois, that would be a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Every other day, I mean, I understand. Yeah, I just have a motorcycle in the garage, and that thing is not running right now because I don't ever ride it. Ever since I had kids, I just don't ride it. I'm scared of somebody hitting me.
Yes, I don't blame you. That's right.
I'm not really worried about myself. I
No.
feel like I'm a pretty good rider, but just everybody else you got to worry about.
I had a good friend who did a
phones.
terrible accident on a motorcycle, and he said that's the thing you don't appreciate as a rider is you got to worry about everybody else.
Yeah. So where did you grow up? You're from Jacksonville? You grew up there?
Yeah, I grew up in Jacksonville, graduated Jacksonville High School. and then I went off to Western Illinois University in Macomb, so not
that's
super
where I
far
went.
away. Oh, outstanding.
Yeah.
I did not finish. I learned in 2 years that college wasn't for me, and then I joined the Navy. But yeah, I spent my first 21 years in and around Central Illinois.
Okay. So out of the Navy, how long did you serve in the Navy?
8 years.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for your service.
Appreciate that. It was an honor.
How I know, eventually you started Team Cymru.
Well
All right.
done.
I wanted to make sure I got that right. How long in between getting out of the Navy and starting that?
So we have to rewind a little bit. When I was 12 years old, Illinois College in Jacksonville, Illinois, had a program for students. It was a 1-week program, and you could pick history, biology, physics, and they had this new thing called computer science.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, of course, a lot of people hadn't heard of that. But I and my 4 closest friends were just intrigued by that. And
Yeah, what year about was this?
So this would have been, this would have been about 78, 79,
Okay.
somewhere in there, maybe 80. And we were the D&D, Dungeons and Dragons nerds, right? This was our jam. And so computer science pulled at us.
Brand new.
Brand new, cutting edge. So we went in, we learned C.
Can't believe they had it.
language. Yeah, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And it was new. I believe it was the first year they were doing it. It was taught by an outstanding gentleman named Barry Barron. And he was also a professor there. And for 1 week, he taught us C programming. And we ended up creating a game, a rudimentary game, but a game where you moved around in text and things. By that Friday, I was hooked. I had found my passion. And so I ended up programming. I wrote the report card program for Jacksonville High School. I wrote fundraising tracking for Jacksonville High School.
Wow.
I had a computer at home, a small color computer from Radio Shack. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. Here was the challenge. I couldn't do math.
Yeah.
Not a math guy. Just couldn't. My dad's a math teacher. It's a shanda. It's a shame, right? We laugh about it now. Didn't laugh then. And I couldn't do math. And to major in computer science was to major in math with a concentration in computer science. So I ended up going to Western for history and pre-law, thinking, well, maybe I'll become an attorney. It just didn't resonate the same way. Once I went into the Navy, I was in the reserves. So I would be called out operationally, go away somewhere for a while. But then
What did you do in the Navy?
So I was a corpsman with the Navy, which means a medic. In the Navy, it's called a hospital corpsman.
Okay.
I was detailed over to the Marine Corps, so I was a combat medical technician. I took care of Marines, and they took care of me. I loved being with the Marines.
Yeah.
And then I was selected for special operations, and so did that sort of thing for a whole long time.
Wow.
And really enjoyed it. And it was very good for me. I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't do it again. But it was a great growth opportunity for me and an excellent travel opportunity as well.
Yeah.
Through all of that, I would be home for periods of time, and I did 2 things. I played in my punk band, and when I had hair, I had a big mohawk. It was green or blue. It was epic.
That's hilarious.
I played guitar. I was lead screamer. It was outstanding. And I would program. And I would do contract programming because I was cheap. I felt I was good. People told me I was good, but I was cheap, and that's why people hired me. I didn't have the degree. I didn't have the pedigree. But at the time, it was starting to boom, and the demand for programmers was through the roof very early. As I was programming, I honed my skill and ended up moving to other companies. And I ended up going to UUNet. And you'll have to Google this, but UUNet was the biggest ISP on the planet at the time. And we had people...
Internet service provider.
Internet service
for those
provider.
That don't know.
Yeah, sorry. I went full geek there. UUNet had a problem with some of its users abusing the internet, either its network or the networks of others to which it was connected. And I started to see, this internet thing is really growing leaps and bounds. So I helped build every major carrier's network in the United States.
Wow.
I was nobody famous. I was just a guy racking and configuring
Don't get the
gear.
credit for it.
No credit here. But I got to see how it was all built out and interconnected. And I think people don't appreciate that the internet is largely duct tape and baling wire, and a whole lot of engineers who work really hard to keep it functional. But I could see the abuse potential. as more and more of folks started to throw everything online, and when you would ask them why, I don't know, but my competitor is, my customers are, I have to be there.
Yeah.
We started to see folks we would describe as adversaries taking advantage of that. So you put all your business information online, or you connect your business services online. That's a way out, and it's a way in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, this is going to be a problem, because we're moving very quickly. We're putting everything online. The internet is designed to connect. It is not designed to keep things apart. In fact, the protocols at the heart of the internet will route around damage, and a firewall is damage. If it's blocking communication from the protocol's point of view, that's damage. So I started to pitch this idea that we need to start watching the tactics, techniques, and procedures, TTPs, of the bad guys. At the time, it was mostly kids, young men.
Yeah.
They're horsing around. They would take over 3 machines and attack their buddy, right? And it was all kind of a lark.
Right.
But then one night, I saw it change. I was hanging out in some hacker channels. I wasn't a hacker myself, but they were very welcoming. They knew I was a good guy, a white hat, it was called at the time. So I would just hang out and ask them questions. And one day, a guy hops on, and he asks another guy, he goes, "Hey, can you card me some calling cards?" And calling cards, you might remember, this goes way back, but it was a way that you could make long-distance calls for fairly cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy would fraudulently obtain calling cards, and then he would sell them in the Bronx. And he would sell them, mostly he preyed on poor immigrants, and say, here's a way you can call home if you pay me, sort of 10 cents on the dollar for this calling card that he had obtained fraudulently. The calling card would get busted out, and he'd sell him another. So he says, "Hey, can you card me some calling cards? And I'll trade you stuff for it." Because they did, everything was trade, right? So I'll trade you some hacked software if you'll trade me some Nike shoes or whatever.
Right.
And the guy said, "Sure, I'm busy right now. Put $50 in my PayPal account, and I'll do it later tonight." And the guy said, "Wait, $50 in your PayPal account? Why do you want that when I could trade you this or this or this?" And he said, "Yeah, that's true, but with $50, I can go to the movies." That was the epiphany.
Right.
That was the moment I saw it all change. These guys who'd been horsing around and doing everything for barter, for meaningless, ephemeral things, suddenly could make something of a living by hacking us. And that was when they stopped using their own PayPal accounts and started using ours. So I built the company to track the adversaries. First off, where are they? What are they doing? What are they going to go after next? How are they going to get in? What worked? What didn't work? What are they going to try now? And then from that, you form what's called threat intelligence. But you build lists of things that you don't want to allow into your network, right? Here's a bunch of hosts that are hacked. If they're knocking on your door, that's bad news. Here's a bunch of DNS names, domain name service, right? You type www.google.com, that's a DNS name. Here's a bunch of DNS names that are being used to control those hacked devices. You want to block that so people can't control devices on your own network. It's things along those lines. The thing that really excited people, though, is I would go out and do these presentations where I would describe what these crews were doing, which people just find fascinating.
Yeah.
Right? But at the end of the day, the whole goal was, how can I help you make your network more secure? Because the real secret to internet security is you're only as secure as the guy next door. If he's hacked, they're coming after you next, right? And there's nothing you can do about that. So it's a community problem and a community solution.
So was there, I mean, I assume this was over kind of the course of multiple years that this kind of came to fruition. Interesting. Yeah, I think back, so my brother was, he's 8 years older than me. So like when I was like 10 years old, he was like teaching me to build a computer. Yeah, it was so different back then. Geez. Right. And he actually went on to, he dropped out of college and started getting certified and all kinds of stuff. He just would read a book and drive to St. Louis and get certified. These books are like this big.
That's right. Yes, I remember those.
But he ended up being the head of LRS's like security department for a while, and then eventually he moved on to Microsoft. But I just, I always talked to him, and back then I just, I didn't know much. I was a kid, I was only 10 years old when he taught me to build a computer, but I did learn a lot over the years from him. You know what I mean? That's, and even to this day, like probably, I don't know, 85 or 90% of the computers out there I've built. Nobody builds computers anymore, so it's kind of kind of an interesting talent to have or skill.
I made all my kids build their computers.
Yeah, it's really not that hard, It's just,
and
but it used to be like making sure everything would speak to each other and like getting drivers, and that was. I remember it being a challenge for a while there. So, in my notes, I had that you started this in your basement.
I did indeed. Bootstrapped it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Started as a hobby that turned into a vocation.
Yeah, that's some of the greatest stories, I guess you could say. You know what I mean?
Right.
I started Bootbox in a home office, and then we were in the garage, actually in the building next door, where again this table was being used for multiple things. So, at what point during all this did you realize like this really could become a major company? Was there a certain point or like a certain first job you got, or?
So I bootstrapped it. I took on no funding, and we were profitable since day one. As soon as I hung up the shingle, look, in fairness, a lot of people knew me. They knew I was a security guy.
You've been on the scene.
I've been on the scene, right? So knocking on the door, I wasn't completely an unknown. That said, I'm knocking on the door. I'm talking to buddies. Hey, you're a security guy. I'm a security guy. You know me. You trust me. But your boss doesn't know me. And he signs the checks.
Yeah.
So I very quickly had to learn how to make an appeal that would help you to make an appeal to your boss, right? That this is actually going to be valuable to you. But got it done. Was profitable from day one. I would say by year 3, I knew I had lightning in a bottle.
Wow.
I knew that because I was receiving, at that point, probably monthly offers to buy my company by major companies. And I sent out to a friend of mine a letter he had written when I announced the formation of my company. And it was his response, which was, I love you. I respect you. You're one of the best. You'll be broke in a month.
Just puts a little fire under you.
It sure did. Don't tell an operator he can't do it.
That's funny. What would you say was like the hardest part of those early years?
The hardest part is, so for me, it was a passion, right? Like I was all in. I would have worked all night. And then you're there at 3 a.m. realizing it's not about the code. It's about the customer. What do they need? Like I had this perception of what they needed. I had this because I knew very well what the bad guys were doing. So I'd try to tell you what you need. Notice I'm not listening. So the hardest part was learning to listen and accept that maybe I don't know what they need. Or maybe what they need isn't priority number 1, it's priority number 10. And then you start to learn that their business isn't securing their network. Their business is producing podcasts. Their business is making water bottles. That's more important because that's what their customers want.
Mm-hmm.
So widening my aperture, being open to a wider conversation about business, this is what I see, because now I do venture capital and private equity. This is the problem I see with young entrepreneurs. And I don't mean young necessarily in age, just young new business, right? Is they have a passion, they have an idea, it's a great idea, but they're not listening.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They've already defined the market, and the market is telling them no.
Right.
That was the hardest thing for me. That probably took 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that was a tough thing, even for myself. So I completely can understand that. Did you find that most of the stuff you were doing was like customized then per client, I assume?
So initially, everything was customized. Everything was a one-off. And you learn that doesn't scale.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that maybe the first or second year. By the second year, for sure. Because then you're up all night.
Right, you have to constantly do the same thing.
And we're modifying this code, and I'll never forget, one of my buddies who was working for me at the time said, "Didn't we just write this like a year ago?" And you're like, "Yeah, we did. It's over here." So you start to, we could just reuse code. you also start to see patterns, right? We already knew about the patterns across the attacks. We started to learn about the patterns across the attack surface. What are the things that are most likely to be exposed? I don't care what industry you're in. If you're connected to the internet, what do you look like? And you start to see a lot of commonalities. And you start, okay, well, why don't we have one set of products with some features you can turn on or off that all of you could buy, right? And we would be better at support. You know, it's not about making it easier on us. It's about making it better for them.
Right.
And trying to support 12 different offerings means you're going to be pretty lousy at all 12.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially if they're all customized.
Yes. Yes. And you're trying to remember, oh, man, I haven't coded on this in 6 months. Why did I do it that way? Why did he do it that way? You know, that's madness, right?
Yeah.
So that discipline, listen to the market, find the patterns, develop to the patterns. It doesn't matter if you're a service or you're producing a good or code. Find the patterns, meet them where they are within those patterns.
Yeah, I was listening. Was it a talk or a book? I don't remember. It was either I was listening to someone talk, or a podcast or something, and they were talking about how some of the best entrepreneurs, people creating businesses or whatever, they're very good at recognizing patterns, because a lot of patterns repeat themselves over time. Mm-hmm. So if you can see like, oh, this is starting to happen again, you can kind of get ahead of it and, create a service or a product or whatever to address that pattern.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's interesting you said that. Looking back, like, what belief did you have that others maybe thought were crazy but ended up being right?
Well, the whole idea of the company, the idea that we needed any company that was tracking the abilities of the bad guys.
Yeah.
Because the attitude was, well, I have antivirus and I have a firewall. I don't need anything else. I don't need to know that they're changing their tactics because they can't get in. Mm-hmm. Like, that's wrong-headed, right? If we've learned anything, no Maginot Line stands the test of the enemy. So that was a tough one. That was a really tough one. That's why my good friend said, you'll be broke in a month, right? There's no market for this. I would say the need to collaborate, trying to convince competitors to work together and exchange information on what was hitting their attack surface. You're not giving up intellectual property here, right? Because if they're coming after you this way, they're going to be coming after your competitor that way, almost certainly. And then cross-industry. So I remember I put together a conference of SCADA and SCADA users and SCADA manufacturers. Now, SCADA systems are the software, the tools that track the pressure in oil and gas pipelines or the speed at which a wind turbine is moving, right? It's all monitoring software. Sewage plants use them. Water plants use them. And what was really interesting is the SCADA guys want to develop something that never breaks because you want to know if the water pressure is okay.
Right.
But the users of SCADA want something they can plug into their corporate network and then hoover information off of it to put into their whatever database where they're collecting all this and make, charts and things for management. And so those two weren't talking, even though they were buying each other's products. And they particularly weren't talking about security.
Yeah.
When I asked the SCADA manufacturer, I put two of them together on a panel, and I asked the SCADA manufacturer, I said, so we're seeing your systems compromised, and we're seeing it with increasing regularity. How would you respond to that just generally? What are your thoughts on security? And he said, well, that should be impossible. I said, well, why? He said, because we tell everybody who buys our system, never connect it to a network that's connected to the internet. Problem solved. And then I asked the user, actually a customer of that company, I said, well, how do you respond to that? And he said, but if I can't connect it to my corporate network, I can't get access to it. And nobody puts two computers on their desk. Mm-hmm. So you see that, right? Like they hadn't had that conversation. So that was a hard one to break. And it still is to some degree, but it's much better.
Yeah, interesting. So was your main product offering, did it become something kind of like I don't want to dumb it down because it sounds like it was much more advanced than that, but just like a Norton antivirus type of thing, or was it?
It's a combination of feeds and portals. So the feeds would be, here's a list of naughty things you should block, or you at least want to monitor.
So you kind of developed like a database?
Yes, okay. Exactly that. And so fresh feed, this isn't something that was naughty 6 months ago. Within the last 30 minutes, 30 days, whatever, this IP address, Internet Protocol address, has been linked to, and then we would put the categories of naughtiness. As a company, you might not care about
that. Categories of naughtiness.
It's actually what we called it. So you as a company might say, well, that IP has been actively involved in sending spam. I don't care. But that IP has been actively involved in keystroke logging. And I'm a bank. Now I care a lot, right? So those indicators help you to decide, because everything's finite. You can't block everything. I'll block that. I won't worry about that. I'll watch that. I'll watch that more closely, right? You can make those intelligent decisions. I can't make them for you. This is part of listening to the customer, right? I can't tell you what's important to you. I can't even tell you what's threatening to you. I can just present to you the threat landscape and you make those decisions. The portal side is for threat intelligence analysts. So so they can investigate threat campaigns, malware campaigns. So again, I know this IP address is naughty. We found it doing bad things on our network. I want to know if it's tied to some kid in Texas or is it tied to a North Korean state-sponsored activity. Different levels of response there, right? Mm-hmm. Different levels of concern. So that portal allows them to plug in, a piece of malware or an IP address, and then we illuminate, oh, well, that's part of the following 6 campaigns. I don't care about 5, but boy, number 6, yikes. And then they can sort of flesh out the dossier on that campaign. What are its capabilities? Who is it going after, industry-wise, right? What are its capabilities? Once it's in, what's it likely to do? What could it do? And again, that just helps you to decide what to do about it.
So were you monitoring these different companies' networks to continually build that database and understand what was happening?
No.
Or how did you find kind of those new threats, I guess?
So lots of, and there are lots of companies now that monitor corporate networks, right? And they do a fine job. We weren't as concerned about that because that's what we would call right of bang. If I see something naughty on your network, it's already too late.
Oh, yeah.
Right of bang. We wanted to be left of bang, which is to say we wanted to get as close to the malevolent infrastructures as we could get, and then be able to warn people ahead of time, hey, this infrastructure, we don't necessarily know who's behind it, but this infrastructure has these capabilities, and it's doing recon in your industry. Oh, yeah, you probably want to block this or look for these behaviors, right? Or it's doing recon of you. Oh, well, that's a different level altogether.
Yeah.
So again, you want to block things. You want to start checking your network to see if it's already managed to gain access, right? So that was our approach. We were watching and are watching the attacker infrastructure.
So you're being
splattering
proactive,
Exactly.
looking at different things.
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I have a quote on the wall in the bathroom. Our bathroom's the only thing we didn't update here, so I just leaned into it and would just write on the walls different quotes and stuff. And the quote says, "How's it go? Not all crazy ideas are great, but all great ideas are crazy." I don't remember who said it. I have it in my phone, but I always like that thought. But it's interesting because we ran into kind of similar things when we got started because social media had just came around. I was on social media, Facebook, back when you had a college email address. But when I started this company, businesses didn't think they needed social media. They didn't think they needed it. They're like, well, I'm doing fine. I've done it this way for this long. I'm doing fine. You know what I mean? So it was a lot. Actually, it's our 10-year anniversary, and our theme is Decade of Disruption, because in our area, we really disrupted the norm of how you advertise, how you use social media. Businesses just weren't doing it. So what I did is I just started doing it pretty much for free for people. And then as other businesses saw it and, oh, I want to do that. Oh, I saw your video. I want a video.
Right.
So eventually I was able to actually, charge a decent price for everything that we do. But it was kind of the same route, starting in my office and, we were profitable right away because I didn't have any expenses besides buying equipment. It was kind of funny how I went about that, though. I bought I couldn't get a loan, first of all, and maybe that's because my own stupidity of not putting together like a business plan and like properly going to the bank to get a loan to buy anything. But I could get a loan to buy a photo booth because it was like a piece of equipment that they could take,
Right.
So I got a loan and bought a photo booth, and nights and weekends I would rent out the photo booth. And then I used the money from that to fund like buying cameras and different things.
Outstanding. Well done.
To grow this business. And then now that's still a business. I brought on a partner though to run it, and he just runs it, and we do a little bit of marketing for it. But it was funny. I was at someone's house, and they told me they were at a wedding. This was like kind of right when I was quitting my old job and starting this business. And he's like, yeah, they had a photo booth at this wedding. And I was like, people still use photo booths? I always thought of it as just like the thing in the mall that you like get inside of. He was telling me about it. So I looked up online and saw that there was, first of all, there's really cool new photo booths. I was like, wow, these photo booths are crazy now. They could text, they can print pictures right there. Like, and they're pretty compact. But I looked at the people in the area, and there were like, all their websites were terrible. Like I'm like, I wouldn't even trust hiring this person. I feel like they wouldn't come. You know what I mean? So just from my skill set that I was already starting to do at this company, I was like, well, I could build a website and get to the top in SEO easy. And then I wouldn't even have to spend money on advertising. Right. So I named it Springfield Photo Booth because what do you search for?
That's right. Well done.
Yeah. So I just started doing that. So nights and weekends I would do that. And then during the week, basically work on this business for 12 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was the same way. I would, my wife, she was a hairstylist, so she would be at work all day, and she'd work late, so I'd work all day. She'd get home like 7, 8 o'clock, and then we'd hang out for a couple hours, and then she'd go to bed. And I'd be like, all right, I'm going to go work on this website. And she's like, all right. And then she'd wake up to go to work, and I'd be like, oh, I just finished the website. She'd be like, you are out of your mind. But it was a journey, man. It was, what I struggle with a lot nowadays is I actually love that. You know what I mean? I really love that, like, oh, I want to get this done. Like, I'm just going to sit here and get it done. But since I've had kids, like, I prioritize that so much more that like I want to be home. Like even if I try to stay here late and do something, come 8 o'clock when they're going to bed, I'm like, oh, I want to say goodnight to my kids. I start feeling guilty and kind of get distracted. So it's been a tough mental struggle. You know what I mean? To let go of that, and also trying to become more of a early morning person.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I started delivering.
That's a struggle for me.
Oh my gosh. I started delivering newspapers at age 10. So I was up at, 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m. every day. And I always joked that killed mornings for me because, most of my life now I was a night owl, but over the last couple of years, I've kind of tried to pivot that to get up early and get like a workout in and just be more healthy.
Yes.
But yeah, it just, I don't know. I feel like when I sit down at night in front of the computer, like it just everything clicks.
Yeah, it starts to flow.
It's like the whole day builds up for this period, and then now I go to bed. Whereas before, it's like I could get so much done in the middle of the night. You don't have any distractions.
Right.
Creative juices are flowing for some reason in the night. It's just I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough thing to battle.
You mentioned your wife and your kids. When I had the idea to start the company, I came home. Told my wife, I said, here's the idea. And we've been talking about it.
Oh, you were married at that point?
I was married. We had 2 kids. We have 3 kids now, but we had 2 kids at the time. Little.
Oh, my gosh.
Little. And we've been talking about it for a while. I said, I think it's time. If it all goes sideways, we're young enough to recover. And she was all in. So she did HR, finance, administration.
Oh, that's cool.
But the day I went to sign the paperwork to formally incorporate, she put our 2 kids in a minivan and drove to apartment complexes to pick out the apartment we'd move into when we lost our house. And she drove the minivan because that was the vehicle we decided we'd keep if we went under.
Yeah.
And that, I always say she's tougher than me. You got to have that kind of determination and belief, right? And you say, oh, I worked all night. I did that as well because you believe.
Yeah.
And now I invest in companies, and I go in and you get the management presentation. You'll get a very polished one, very nice. They've worked out all the numbers and their 3-year projections and all these things, right?
What I did not do when
which I did never do. Yeah, and I listen. Okay, that's well thought. But when I see the cat come in the room, who has just spent all night bleeding and sweating, not on that presentation, but on solving a customer problem or developing a new product, I instantly know this is a good bet because he's wired the way you are, the way I am. He's going to see it through. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to be successful. But in my experience, he has a greater chance of success than the person who's
passionate.
You got to have that passion, right? You got to be willing, like, man, I'm going to bleed for this. I am going to bleed, sweat. I'm going to cry. I'm going to do all the things necessary to do it. And that's the greatest tell.
Yeah. That reminds me, I was at a conference in Texas a couple weeks ago, and while I was there in the hotel room one night, I watched the little... I wouldn't call it a documentary, but like the remake of the story of the BlackBerry. Have you seen that movie?
Yes.
Where the guy when they have their first meeting, and you got that hard ass guy that's like, that invests. It's this co-CEO, and then the other guy walks in and he just wows him away. You know what I mean? Just by talking about everything he did and everything. He's like a mess.
Yeah, right.
Spilled grapes or whatever on his shirt. That clicked in my head though when you were saying that. That's funny. So how long did you own this company for?
Wow. Let's see.
Because you sold it, right?
Yes. Well, I'm still an investor in the company.
Okay.
Minority shareholder. I'm still on the board. I'm no longer operational. Retired from operational duties about a year and a half ago now.
Okay.
So we had, 2005 to 2025 was when I was operational. So 20 years, and it's still going strong. Stronger than ever, actually.
Wow.
So knowing...
Still same name? Or
Same name, absolutely. Same great customer set and even more. New products and improved products. So it's exciting to watch. It's fun to watch, right? People tell you, oh, you're going to have a hard time letting go of your baby. No, I want my child to flourish. Right? All our kids are out of the house now.
Yeah.
Good. They're adulting. I want my company to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I can only carry it so far, right? I'm full of crazy ideas. That's not a problem. But at some point, it's important to bring in fresh ideas.
Yeah.
Right? And I did that.
How hard was it to stay focused? Because I could see that was your thing, that's what you knew about. But I would imagine someone like yourself, and even when I think of myself, you have this business, it's great, you're doing this, then you have this other idea. It's like a kind of a squirrel situation. Did you ever have that kind of situation that you had to be like, try to do something else also?
Right. So for the entirety of my time there, initially I was the R&D department, and I knew that wouldn't scale. So I started to bring in very early others who had that creative bent, the mad scientist bit, right? And I made a decision, this is probably year 4 or 5, that I would no longer be in charge of R&D, because I'm CEO, but I would remain part of the R&D team, and I would report to the head of R&D. So that was my check. So I would come to him and say, I've got this great idea, I coded on all night, here it is. And he'd say, that's great, but who's the customer? Or he'd say, that's great, but how are we going to support it, given how difficult it is, how tenuous it is, right? So he was the adult in the room when it came to R&D. But I also knew, I had complete faith in him, still do to this day, he's still running R&D, that he could come up with ideas too. And then as we grew the team, they could come up with ideas too. I didn't have to be the squirrel guy, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't mean I didn't have ideas. But you do realize as you're growing as an executive that your priorities have to shift. And you have to make a choice. You either stay chief strategy officer, something like this, right? Chief product officer. You either stay that or you're CEO. You can't do both.
Right.
Not if you're going to scale your business, right?
Yeah.
You can get away with it for a long time, but then it starts to hurt the company
mm-hmm.
and blocks off access for other people to move up and shine, right? So that's how I dealt with it. To this day, I still stay up all night coding. I'll get an idea and I bang it out.
That's funny.
Because I love it, right? It's fun. It's a hobby. It's a passion. But you got to let other people flourish too.
Yeah. How hard was it for you to transition to that CEO position?
Well, it came over many years. I mean, I started as CEO, but of course I was CEO and everything
Right.
else.
It's just such different mindsets, right?
It
Like,
is.
because I've dealt with that myself, because I started this because I love to create. Now I don't get to create so much. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I have lived this. Probably about year 10 is when I realized I need to be the CEO because people have needs. And it starts at home, doesn't it? Your employees have needs. And I don't want to say I was ignoring those needs, but I wasn't necessarily prioritizing them all the time. And as a result, maybe 3 weeks after somebody had brought me an issue, it had become a big problem, right? They were upset. It hadn't been resolved. Maybe two people aren't getting along. And I wasn't there to referee. I wasn't there to make the decisions that would help them to continue a project because I had my own ideas. I was doing my own thing. So here's what I did. I called a bunch of CEOs, big companies, small companies. I said, how do you deal with this? Now, a lot of them had been brought in as CEOs, but they still have the same problems. And they said, well, you're a talented creator. Go hire a chief operating officer. You're big enough now. You can support it financially. Hire somebody who can run the company, who's really into the minutia of the efficiency and the bugs per 1,000 lines of code and how we're doing on the financials. Like really wants to dive into that. I find that fascinating. But how do I do all these things?
Right.
Then go hire a head of sales. You're big enough now. You're late doing this. Hire somebody who can focus on that customer experience, getting new customers and keeping them. Boy, did that change my life. I mean, it was like a breath of fresh air. I was reinvigorated.
Yeah.
I actually felt, am I burning out? Like I'm not actually enjoying work every day anymore. It's because I'd taken on too much. There's an expertise fallacy. If you're really good at something, you start to believe you're really good at everything, or you can succumb to that.
Yeah.
And so I like to tell people, I'm really good at two things, and I'm rubbish at everything else. Go find those people who are good at those everything else.
Yeah.
And man, does your life get easier.
How hard was it for you to find those people?
Not that hard. The funny thing is you're bumping into those people as you grow, right? You've been in business 10 years. So you're at this point where you've already met all those people. Now, they may not be willing to make a job change and all that, but they probably know somebody who is.
Yeah.
So all the people I hired into those roles were people I knew already. I just hadn't looked at them that way, right? Like, wow, you're an amazing head of sales at your company. Why am I not talking to you, right? I knew an amazing COO. He actually was a VP of operations at a company. It was a customer and a partner. Why have I never asked his opinion on this, right? And he immediately jumped at the opportunity. So initially not hard. Now, as we grew, then you go through the usual recruiting stuff, right? So you find a recruiter and you're bringing people in you don't know. References count a lot there. Always check 3 references and then maybe 3 more.
Kind of like the people would do for you.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So not hard initially, and then not hard because we put together, our COO put together a process for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. It's I've been trying to relieve hats so I could focus. That's one of the things with Rusty coming on.
Right.
Like I need to focus on growing the business. Like I need you to ramp up as fast as you can to run it. like you know what I mean? And it's just
smart move.
Well, it's just it's tough to let that stuff go. I mean, it's your baby, and you've done it this way, and and then you bring in someone brand new, and it's like you always have to tell. I mean, Ryan's my first team member, and I just remember bringing him on, like letting stuff go for him to do. Like it's so hard to do, and then he came to me when we hired our next person, and he's like. So I just need to let them do this. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I know it's hard to let go, man. It's tough. But yeah, I've been trying to put more of and honestly, I've probably held us back, from not doing that sooner.
Yeah. And I know I did, right? But here's something I did when we started to hire people into these roles. Like, how do I send a message that I mean it? I'm not just bringing you in to occupy the title and I'm going to micromanage you. I mean it. Right? And I have to remind myself. So I put a big sign at the doorway of every one of the doors in our office. We fail forward. The only way you learn is mistakes. You learn nothing from success. You can learn some bad things from success, like, oh, I'm really good at this. Maybe you're not. Maybe you got lucky. We fail forward. I put that sign everywhere, and I made people say it. And we had a contest. We had a big toilet seat, and the person who made the biggest mistake that month got to have the toilet seat. Right? But it wasn't a sign of shame. You know, some people are like, man, people must be embarrassed. No, it's like a sign of pride.
Yeah. What do we learn from that failure? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again?
Exactly that.
That's what I try to talk about. You know, it's okay to fail.
100%.
Obviously try to mitigate failure, but
yeah. No, well, we had another rule. This came from my operations in the military. No self-inflicted wounds, right? You don't want to have a mistake that was so obvious you could have avoided this, right? So be prepared, right? But
I always say plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Exactly. In the military, we have a saying. What does every military plan require for success? It only requires one thing: the complete and total cooperation of the enemy. Well, you're never going to get that, right? So things are going to go awry, and they always do. And yet, you have to be adaptable. But you're going to make mistakes. Celebrate those mistakes, but don't repeat them, right? If you're repeating the same mistake, that shows an unwillingness to learn. That's a different problem. If you're making new and interesting mistakes, you are actually propelling us forward.
Yeah.
That was always my view.
Interesting. So over those 20 years, you spent decades, helping protect organizations from cyber threats and everything. How did the landscape change?
So early days, again, I say kids, mostly young men, all over the world, particularly in the U.S., horsing around. But then they started to organize. They started to share best
groups.
Practices. Yep.
Yeah.
They also started to encapsulate their knowledge. So if I want to break into your network, I do some recon on your network. There's 6 ways I could get in. Boom, boom, boom. I try way number 3 and I'm in. Well, these guys started to learn, man, I'm doing this manually. Why don't I automate it? So they created bots. Mm-hmm. And the bots would go out. Initially, bots just launched attacks, DDoS attacks. But then they taught the bots, coded the bot here. Automatically scan, and when you find this, try to get in, and then report back the results. Well, if you think about what that bot actually is it's encapsulated knowledge. So I can hand that bot to somebody who is non-technical, give them a piece of paper with 3 commands on it, and they can build a botnet army of 100,000 bots in about 24 hours. I've encapsulated knowledge. So that was a big shift. So now criminals were coming online, realizing they could steal credit cards, they could get a big botnet and sell it. To give you an idea of how many compromised machines are out there, right now the going rate in an underground economy for a compromised Windows machine online or Mac is 4 cents. It'll cost you 4 cents to buy a compromised machine. That just tells you the supply. So that was a big shift. The other big shift, and street criminals came online. So 2 guys were talking, and I'm hanging out in their channel. Again, I'm not hacking, but I'm learning from them. And one guy says, hey, weren't you a drug dealer? And he was known as Druggy. Everybody called him Druggy. And the guy's like, yeah, actually I was. Like, were you making more money selling drugs? He goes, I don't know. I make more money doing spam now, I guess. Well, what made you change to this? What did you change from that crime, street crime, to online crime? Nobody shoots at me. It's a big difference, right? Mm-hmm. It's a quality of life issue for him, right?
You gotta worry about getting robbed or
yeah, exactly. Or beat up by the boss, yeah, right? So that was big. And then we started to see nation states come online. And we're all well aware of this now. Initially, they came online to launch attacks themselves, and they still do. And they tried to engage with this underground economy, but they made mistakes like using proper punctuation and capitalization and speaking in correct grammar, right? And everybody would just make fun of them. Then they realized, I don't have to do the deed. I could hire you. You're a known hacker. You've got a big botnet army. You focus on this geo region. I'll just hire you. You don't care who I am. Ideology gets checked at the door. If I'm willing to pay you for that service, you'll go attack that network and you'll bring it back to me, all gift wrapped. So it's a global economy, right? There is hyper specialization now, just like there is in the real world economy. So we're using Shure microphones. They're made by Shure. We're not going to make our own microphones. Got different cameras. I see Lumix here. You buy your cameras from Lumix. You're not going to make your own camera. People who do websites, well, you do the website, but they host it somewhere else and they monetize with somebody else. That same level of hyper-specialization exists in phishing campaigns. So you receive a phishing email, click here to get your free this or to update your password.
Yeah, those are getting good.
They're good. So a lot of those still come out of Romania. There are groups in Romania whose specialty is writing those in the language and slang you want. You go to their websites and you actually click drop downs. I want it to be New York style language for an American audience. I want it to be for a Cairo audience. So it has to be in Arabic, but it has to be in Egyptian Arabic, which is significantly different than Saudi Arabic, right? So you see that hyper-specialization that's come along. All that is to say, it's all driven by an economy. It's an economic model now. That makes it really hard to thwart. You've got the nation states who are coming at you for information warfare or staging, and you got everybody else who's just doing it for gain. Those are difficult things to stop at the core, right? I can't get to the root and nip that. The technology is just a tool. So I would say those are the big shifts that I've seen.
Interesting. How, obviously now AI is getting crazy, and a lot of people are worried about, the AI side of, you talk about bots, stuff like that. Well, with AI, I imagine it just makes all that stuff so much easier. Now, on the flip side, I'm sure people are using AI to defend themselves. How has the implementation of AI changed things?
Well, from a security point of view, AI is a force multiplier for both the good side and the bad side. So the bad side, they use AI to enumerate networks, basically by tricking AI into doing the reconnaissance for them. There are limits. There are things AI won't do. They just simply won't scan a network, right? You can't coax it into that. But you can get a lot of information about a company. What am I talking about here? Well, I want to hack you. Okay, but I know you're serious about cyber defense. So how do I get in? Well, one very large retailer was hacked, lost millions of credit cards. How? They couldn't get in through the retailer. They were smart. Instead, they got in through their HVAC vendor, who had a back-end link to be able to monitor the HVAC setups in every store to tell them, hey, you need to change your filters. Hey, we need to come in and replace that unit. It's a great idea, right? It's a great service. But they weren't as secure. So you can use AI to enumerate, who are your vendors? Who's your law firm? Bet they have a lot of information on you. Who's your accountant? Definitely going to have a lot of financial information. So this is where AI becomes very helpful to criminals, which, as you can see, is more about the analysis and less about the tooling. Yes, you can do tooling. For the good guys, it is more about tooling and less about analysis. So now it's about, if I'm presented with this attack surface and this attack style, what would be the first three things I should do to detect that attack or to thwart that attack? And AI is very good at going out and reading the best practices, looking at all the tools available and saying, okay, well, here's what the analysis suggests. Here are the steps you should take. Here's how you should train people. AI has been very useful in false phishing campaigns. So you can use AI to generate an email that really seems to have come from you, that you then send out. You have something else send out.
My team gets emails that says it's from me. It's like, I need you to do this.
Yeah, I need some gift cards. Yeah. So there's companies that specialize in red teaming your company. It's obviously not a phishing campaign, but it looks like one, right? It behaves like one. And then it raises awareness at your company. Maybe I should call you first before I click this link or before I transfer that money, right? So AI is very helpful there in creating those campaigns and really testing people's mettle, if you will.
Yeah.
Look, AI is a game changer for everything. It's not nearly as powerful as people either want it to be or fear that it is. At the end of the day, it's just code. I'm a programmer. I look at everything through that lens when it comes to technology. It has some serious limitations. I think the biggest fear I have for AI is that it could contribute to the dumbing down. So instead of AI doing something evil, because AI doesn't have wants, it doesn't have goals. It's not goal-driven. It's input-driven. Somebody goes to it and says, how should I think about this? And AI goes out and it grabs 10 papers and it says, well, here's what the summation of those papers is. And you just go off and think that way.
Mm-hmm.
What I tell people is if you're going to ask AI anything, tell it, show your sources, show your work. I want links to your sources. I want to see how you came to that conclusion or that analysis. And then I tell people, click on the links. I know it's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't you like to know the other fun thing you can do with AI? Thank you for that. Now give me a counter argument.
Mm-hmm.
And with sources and show your work, right? So I worry about AI relieving us of the burden of thinking and thoughtful analysis because it's just convenient and easy. That's not the fault of AI. That's our fault.
Mm-hmm.
So critical thinking skills, that's what we need to be developing.
Yeah. I worry about that too. And I think, there's a lot more kids using it. And I think parents don't understand it because obviously the AI is built by somebody or a team of people, and those people might have certain ideologies or whatever. So, from a standpoint of using it to do things that are this is how you do it, like I love that. But people that are using it of like, during the elections, like asking about Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, you know what I mean? Things like that, where it's like opinion based for the most part. I worry about it from that standpoint, or even history, like people that are trying to, say history was a certain way or we did something wrong, but it's all kind of,
again, the people coding and controlling AI could insert influence, but it's somewhat difficult because of the volume of information AI collects to make, right? The large language models are truly large. As a data point, the free AI systems you can use, you haven't subscribed, you didn't pay any money, you're just using the free version. Somewhere around 80% of that information you are using comes from Reddit. Why Reddit? Because it's open, it's free, it's cross-discipline, right? I mean, every topic you can imagine is being discussed there.
Mm-hmm.
Is it being discussed thoughtfully and thoroughly? Is that the fault of AI? Is that the fault of the masters, if you will, of AI?
Right.
So again, you've really got to say, hey, where did you get that information? Show me how you came to, say, a conclusion or even an analysis. Now give me a counterpoint. It all still comes down to, are you a critical thinker or are you not?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not a critical thinker, you don't need AI to trip you up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I was listening to Mark Andreessen talk about how, programmers are basically... you would think that, you have AI, you can work less, but they're actually working more because they have, 4 different, things going. And why this one takes 10 minutes to process and they go to the next one for a different project. And that one's taking 10 minutes. So they go to the next one and have that one go. And they he called them AI vampires because they just end up staying up all night because they're being so productive that they don't want to stop. And then he was talking about how now it's even getting to the point where, you have this AI agent and that one has 4 of its own agents. So it's almost like this whole team of agents built with like this agent's the manager. It's got 4 agents under him. He's like, and he was just talking about, you're in the near future, the people, they're gonna have like 20 agents working for him. And I was like, man, that's insane. It's hard to wrap your head around.
It is. The productivity gains are remarkable, not just in software engineering. The St. Louis Fed, which is one of the best places to get economic data, recently published a impact study. To what do we attribute job loss, and to what percentage is that AI? And AI is negligible compared to all other categories of job loss.
Really?
Yeah. The reality is it's making people more productive. Is there going to be job loss as a result of AI? Almost certainly. Absolutely, because AI brings automation.
Yeah.
It's automation, not AI, that we're talking about in that case.
Does that count like... So here, for example, I tell everybody, I'm like, look, AI is not going to take your job. It's going to make you more productive. Mm-hmm. But is that counting when you say job loss, like people actually getting fired or more jobs not being created because people are so much more productive?
So this study was about layoffs specifically. Before AI hit, there was already a significant reduction in the number of software engineering jobs being created in the U.S.
Well, everybody overhired, didn't they? Like during COVID and stuff.
That's the real issue. Yeah. Yes. And there was a lot of market pressure the market, private equity, venture capital. Do you really need 50,000 people? The answer may be yes, but if it's yes, can you explain to me why? And the reality is it was more hype than need. It's unfortunate, but we've seen these cycles how many times, and we're going to see them again. So I am not yet seeing a lack of new positions created because AI can fill that position or that person can handle the job of two. I think Andreessen's summary is spot on. This person is more productive, but when you're more productive and you get more done, then there's more you could be doing.
Yeah, well, one thing he talked about was there's a lot of little projects that businesses come up with, but they just can't allocate the time or manpower to do it. So we're going to see a lot more things that never come to fruition because of that actually come to fruition. Features and just, on programs and different things. So that was a pretty interesting take on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on how fast this is going to ramp up from, like AI? People say like, in the next 5 years, or, you know what I mean? Like you hear so many different things. Some people are like, it's not coming that fast. I'm just curious if you have any opinions or thoughts on that.
So my view across a broad range of markets is that it's already integrated into the workflow. I think it's very similar to websites. You remember the early days of websites. It was a little slow, and then all of a sudden, like, everybody had to have a website. Yeah. They didn't even know why.
Oh, I thought you meant just building them.
Yeah, well, building them was awful, too.
I remember my first website I built. I was like, looking back, like, I wonder if I have a screenshot of it somewhere. Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, I still have our original Team Cymru website.
Nice.
Yeah, it's running on a server on my network. You can't get to it, but I keep it there just because it's fun, right? And yeah, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. Whoever thought that, like background images, where you couldn't read the text, that was a good idea.
Well, like I just remember when, like, website builders that are essentially like drag and drop came out, I was like, I was just like, this is because I'm a designer, right? And obviously a website has to function, but I would get so frustrated. Like I took a coding class in high school and I was like, this is terrible. I'm not a programmer. I had my buddy give me all his stuff, you know what I mean, to get through it but I'm a designer. I love design. I like making something that looks nice, a good user experience, that gets the information. Obviously there's SEO and a lot of other stuff that goes into it. But when I think Wix was one of the first big ones, and we use that a lot today. And it just not only did it make my life easier, but it was just so much more enjoyable designing a website.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think AI is integral now. It's going to get more integrated, but I think it's a lot like the web craze. And so now everybody has a website. There's B2B websites, there's B2C websites, there's web portals. I think AI is just going to look a lot like that in the end. So it will ramp up. It is ramping up now. It will peak, but it'll peak in the way that firewalls, antivirus, websites have. It's just part of doing business, and you're going to have, I think where there's a growth industry is educating employees on how to use AI responsibly, meaning you don't want to put too many corporate secrets in it, right?
Right.
A fair number of companies have built their own LLM bases, and they use that. AI companies are feeding that, right? So you're getting the goods, but what you put into it doesn't go out into the wider internet. But I think education is a big growth industry for AI.
Yeah, even just implementing it for businesses, man. There's it's kind of like it was when we first started. Like people don't know why social media is important. It's like, well, it's amazing what you can do with AI if you implement it,
That's right. Yeah, it's going to be very similar to that. I think it's more evolutionary than revolutionary. There's always hype around something new. Social media had hype. The web had hype. The internet had hype. I think it's more just evolution. It's not going to change everything everywhere. Productivity is going to be the big gain. But you'll see it across every industry.
What's like the biggest cybersecurity threat or action or anything that like a business should look at or take or do right now to help protect themselves?
So education and awareness. The best detector of compromise are your employees and your teammates. Of course, we've got all these automated systems now. You've got a firewall, you've got intrusion detection and all sorts of things, anomaly detection. And they're good, but it's code, right? So it's coded for the things we know. When you get to the new things, it's hit or miss, and it's just the way things are. A good education and awareness campaign exercised at least once a year, where the employee sits down and goes through 20 slides, 15 minutes, and then a red team where those phishing email messages arrive. They're bogus, of course. It's done by a legitimate company. You're trying to force people to say, this feels off. American culture is funny, and our adversaries like to take advantage of this. We are incredibly helpful, and I love that about us. I love it about being an American. But we're helpful. We can be helpful to a fault. And so this feels wrong, but this person's asking me for this thing. I want to be helpful to this person. I'm going to go ahead and answer it. We need to stop at this feels wrong. We are pretty good at it out in the physical world. Online, we still struggle. So that awareness campaign, that gut reaction of this doesn't feel right, this isn't how he would write an email to me. We need that level of education. Then you need to test it, and that's where the red teaming comes in. The number one way still into a company or any organization is through phishing. That phishing can be email, it can be social media, LinkedIn can be risky this way, LinkedIn messaging. So, how do you solve that? You make better teammates, more aware teammates.
Okay. Is there an easy way for a business to know if they've been compromised or if a computer's compromised or?
So there's automated ways, of course, like why is this port open on my mail server that wasn't open before? So it is good to have regular scanning and red teaming of the network to see what's changed. Most of the time it's just a misconfiguration, right? But good to know. Again, people are key. It used to be I would upload that file to you and it would take 10 seconds. Now it's taking like 15 minutes. Well, that's a significant change, right? Now, it could be that you have a network problem. It could be that the disk is full. Or it could be that it's being copied in two places, right? Those kinds of things happen. So it's anomaly detection, meaning the scanning, what has changed on the network. Why is there a new device on the network? That's a real tell. It's also anomaly detection from my normal workflow looks like this. This is abnormal to my workflow. Hey, we should probably go take a look at this.
Interesting. Okay. Now, you've worked with intelligence agencies.
Well,
also,
I've worked across
correct?
government. Yeah, multiple governments actually.
How different is that than working with a business?
Well, let's see. 20 years ago, I would say radically different. From a cybersecurity point of view, now almost the same.
Because they're both
Everybody
so high
has
risk.
everybody has the same problems. Now they get targeted by different entities, right, for different reasons. But nation states target American companies for information, same as they would target an American government entity. Pick the agency. And frankly, it's often a lot easier to get into a company than into a government agency. Sometimes it's because the government agency has superior network intelligence and security. Sometimes they just have a smaller attack surface. If fewer drain points going out to the internet. Companies tend to be hyper-connected. It just makes it easier to get in. I would say, same problems, maybe different motivations, but everybody's swimming in the same pool now.
Yeah. Yeah, I could, I guess, understand that for sure. Especially businesses, I feel like are so big now. A lot of them that it's almost potentially more of a challenge to get into a big business, or more of a risk, I guess, for when you look at what's at stake for some of that. You've had a front row seat to successful entrepreneurs, it sounds like, for a while. You've talked to a lot of business owners. What separates people who build like lasting companies from those who don't?
The initial passion, the initial reason for doing a thing matters a lot. Now, I would hope that their goal would be to make money, take good care of their family, take good care of their employees. If that's not part of the calculus, then it's going to need to become part of the calculus, because you can go under fast. You just can't give it away. And you and I have both been down this path. Like you said, initially I gave it away, but then people would knock on the door and they were willing to pay a reasonable price. That's a fair thing to do, right? You wouldn't be sitting here now if you hadn't gone through that evolution. But as long as you have that somewhere in the mind, that this has to pay for itself. I don't want to become a burden on society by building a failed company. That initial passion, that dedication will carry you through those tough nights. And you're going to have tough nights and days, right? You're going to have awful nights and days, as I'm sure you've experienced. If you don't remember why you started, you can lose. You can lose focus and you can lose interest fast. Yeah, I would say that's the key.
Did you ever have times when you felt like your motivation dropped off, or you were unsure, or and you know, if you did, like, how did you kind of realign to get that back, to get back focused?
Yeah, absolutely. There's peaks and valleys in every career, and that's very true for an entrepreneur. My down days tended to come when we were doing really well, because I worried about, well, what's next, right? What's the next problem we're going to have? But what's the next market solution? Because no company grows in perpetuity. You grow, you plateau. There's the decision point. What are we going to do to grow again? New product, new offering, whatever. And you grow again. Or you say, oh, everything's fine. And then that plateau becomes a cliff. Those are the moments where I would find myself like, oh, I'm feeling heavy. Feeling heavy. So what did I do? Read a book. I would go find a book on a topic I didn't know well or didn't know at all.
Yeah.
That learning exercise has been proven many times in many studies. Just the act of learning fires those creative neurons.
Yeah.
And that worked for me every time. Now, I didn't always get through the book. Sometimes the books were, this isn't good. So I just get another book. I always tell people, don't power through a book. If it's not working for you, put it down. Maybe it'll work for you a year from now.
Yeah.
Get another book. So those books, biographies are helpful because people are dealing with life challenges, whatever. But I love to read about particle physics. It's a hobby of mine. Something new about particle physics came out, I'd read it.
Yeah.
Man, that was brain fuel. That got me going.
I started, we moved to Sherman, and I was kind of worried about the commute. I mean, even though it's only 15 minutes, I still, I was literally like a couple minutes away.
Right.
So I'm like, man, I'm going to lose, 30 minutes of my day driving. But I got a Audible subscription and started listening to books on the way to work and on the way home. And I've loved it. Like, I never read. I hated the process of reading. Just, I don't know, something about it. I just couldn't focus when I'm sitting there, like, trying to read a book. When I'm listening to it, like, I could take it in and kind of think, you know what I mean, about it. I don't have to, like, think, like, read words, I can pause it. I could, it's easy to kind of just rewind it back.
Right.
And I've actually been doing that for the last couple of years. Is when I've ran into a problem, or actually with this business, like you were just saying, like why haven't we grown anymore? What's the issue? What am I missing? Because I've never done this before.
Right.
And I ended up reading a couple books and learned a lot from them, and they've initiated a lot of change that we've been kind of implementing over the last year. That I think is going to allow us to kind of get to the next level.
Right.
But
well
it was something that, you wish you did sooner. It was like, there's just so many things that you're like, damn, I wish I would have known that sooner, and
100%. Yes.
And I didn't have, I haven't had a lot of mentors, I guess, or people I could talk to. More recently I have, but
good.
it's just it's amazing to and that's honestly why I like doing this podcast, because have someone like you in here and you just talk to somebody that's done something or achieved something or what started a business and just learning from them, talking to them about it. I just really enjoy that process. You know what I mean? And
I'm 100% with you.
When
there.
else do you get to sit down with somebody you don't know for an hour and just talk about whatever comes to your head?
Right.
That's why it's kind of weird, like having questions that I have, because I just am genuinely interested. So it's like I've asked a few of these, but we just hit on most of them as we talk. And
so it says in the Talmud, "Who is wise? The person who learns from everyone." So I have a new rule. I say new rule. It's been a rule of mine for probably 15 years. Every time I walk into a room, I know two things. One, I'm not the smartest person in that room. Two, if I walk away from that room having learned nothing, I have failed as a human. So that has spurred so many ideas, so much growth, and introduced me to a lot of mentors.
Yeah.
Right? Just having that conversation. Like you, I'm genuinely interested in people and what they've done and how they've approached life. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I need to talk to that guy some more. So, yeah, great.
I was
approach.
at that conference in Texas a couple of weeks ago, and here in our area, a lot of people come to me for social media marketing, whatever, technology questions, AI questions. I was down at that conference, and I felt like an idiot. Just talking to the people there and all the stuff they were doing and how they do it and how they use it. And I'm like, geez, it was the first conference I ever have gone to in 10 years. Like I've never.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just never gone to anything.
It's hard to make the time.
Yeah. So, and obviously they're, especially now, they're so much more expensive. But I was like, dang, I probably need to go to more. It's just being in a room with other people that are doing things. It's kind of like this. It's just you're around people and you learn from people, and it was just super interesting.
Yeah, it's great networking.
Yeah, so it was cool. The way people were using AI and the things that they were doing, it was insane.
I tell people as well, people who ask me for advice, where should I go to learn more? So I wearing a shirt of a Shriner, I'm obviously a Freemason. One of the reasons I joined Freemasonry was to be exposed on a consistent basis to a group of people who've had all these different experiences in life. And whatever they did in life, whether they're retired, they're just starting out, and everything in between. So I tell people, plug into some community organizations. It could be Rotary, Kiwanis, Elks, Freemasonry, whatever it is. You really want to get exposed to as many people as you can across every socioeconomic class, because it's the best university you could ever possibly attend.
Yeah.
And that's nothing against higher ed. Higher ed is wonderful. But you want those life experiences too, right? Mm-hmm. And through those kinds of clubs and organizations, conferences are another one, you got to get out there. It's hard to make the time, but when you do, you see the result. Like you're just cavelling because you're like, wow, this was brain blowing, right? So I try to make that.
Even
time
making yourself talk to people. Especially early on in the business, like I'd go to like chamber events, stuff like that. And just, it was hard to go talk to people like, 10 years ago, like, I feel like a kid and I'm trying to talk to all these adults and, and they're like, what do you do? Social media, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, But I was online a lot and watching videos, and I saw what was going on in bigger cities, and I watched a lot of people, and they influenced. I learned from them and people around here. We're always a little bit behind in this area, so just try to bring that here.
Right.
Can you give any kind of statistic or anything to speak to the audience of how large your company actually is or was, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's like a revenue or employee.
Yeah. So it's a fairly large company. It's over 100 employees, located everywhere across the globe. So it's multinational. Its valuation is in the billions.
Wow.
Which is mind-blowing when I say it, because
it's so crazy how things have changed from millions to billions. Over the last 5 years, I'm like, how has everything got to billions all of a sudden? Everything's worth freaking billions of dollars.
Yeah. So, it's a large by all measures, it's probably a high mid-sized company or a low large company.
Yeah. Well, if you're talking billions, it's I think that speaks to it. I just want people to have perspective of like what it actually is, because most people probably don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? With that being said, you know, you have this large company, you've grown it. What's the most expensive lesson that you've learned through this process? Through growing this company?
Well, you learn a lot about all the financial things, accounting and types of accounting, and should you be a subchapter S or a C Corp and all those things. But I would say the most expensive lesson is hiring poorly.
Yeah.
When you find, and this is not the case that you've hired somebody and you find out they're a jerk. You hire somebody and you realize that anywhere else they'd be a great human being and a productive teammate, but here they're not. Which means it's misaligned on both directions.
Yeah.
So I had to go to the well a few times to finally hone a process of recruiting and hiring and onboarding such that people had the highest probability, the best chance to be successful and grow. And maybe they don't stay for 10 years. Maybe they stay for 5, maybe stay for 2. But I want those years to be productive for them and for us. Mm-hmm. So the most expensive lessons I ever learned, incorrect hiring decisions.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How about when you've hired somebody, I know one thing that I've tried to get better at is when you hire someone in recognizing quicker that they're not the right fit and making that change. Have you ever, experienced that?
Absolutely. That's part of that expensive decision. We're all inclined to want to give somebody a 5th chance.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about second chances. That's not the reality. The reality is that statistically, we are likely to give someone 7 chances before we will call a halt, or at least consider calling a halt. That's fascinating. Mm-hmm. So after 7 tries, you're like, maybe I should think about this isn't working, right? You should have been at number 3. So we put in place a very rigorous process of onboarding. Onboarding is every bit as important as recruiting and hiring. So it's a bunch of milestones. Do you know your teammates? Do you know your role? You might not know your role because we explained it poorly. That's on us. But if I don't know that, then 6 months later, I'm like, man, you're really not getting it done. Whose fault is that?
Mm-hmm.
So the onboarding process, mentoring, a formal mentoring program, especially in those first 90 days. So it changed. We went from months later, Gavalt, this is not going to work, to we know within 60 days if it's going to work or not. We never make it to day 90 if someone's not going to work. That's the plan.
Yeah.
We know within 30 to 60 days this is not a good fit. And you know what? It's humane. If it's not a good fit, nobody's going to win. Nobody's going to be happy. This isn't about you didn't work out, you weren't any good. No, we just weren't good together, right? So let's make the tough call now so we don't have to make a much more grueling, difficult call later. The onboarding process, spend a lot of time there because, wow, does that make a world of difference.
I was literally just talked to Rusty earlier this week, and I said we need to get into a position where within 60 days we know if this person's going to work out. So you have made me think that I'm on the right direction.
You are definitely on the right track.
But I had the same conversation with them. Like, if they're not getting done what they need to get done, is it because they don't know they need to get it done? Did we not train them properly? So no, I appreciate that, because it's, sometimes I think things, but I question them because I've never done it, right? You know what I mean?
It's all new.
So when I hear someone like yourself say that, it's very affirming, and I appreciate knowing that. How has your definition of success changed over the years? Obviously, very successful. Sounds like, you know what I mean. But success changes, over the years, and things you might have cared about then, maybe different things now.
Yeah, I mean, as we age, things we care about shift, right? But I'll tell you the big change. Up until I was about 45-ish, it was all about leading a group of people to great outcomes or epic mistakes from which we learn to get to that great outcome. Right? Let's go, go, go. And then about 45, I realized, we have a saying in Judaism, may you live to 120. I'm not going to live forever. I'm not going to be here forever. I need to pass the baton. Well, you can't pass the baton to just anybody. And it's amazing how often you hold out the baton and no hands go towards it.
Mm-hmm.
So the big shift for me, the way I define success, was no longer personal success, corporate success. It was measured in who have I lifted up to another level of capability. And maybe it's not leadership, right? And maybe it's not me who lifted them, but I enabled that to happen. So I started thinking a lot about the next generation of leaders, whether it was at my company, in my industry, or in the world.
It's like the 5 levels of leadership or whatever. 5 levels, right?
Yeah, I think that's, it's been a while since I've heard it, but yeah.
Where it's like you
got to make that shift, know, and it was a good friend of mine, John Hillen, who had turned 52, and I was there the day after his birthday, and he said, when I turned 50, I realized it's now my job to build up the next generation of leaders, not build up my career as a leader. Not that he couldn't continue to do that, and he has. I'd like to think I have as well. But my obligation now is to the next generation, not me or the previous generation.
Yeah, I've been involved in a couple leadership things, and I've actually been reading a lot of books on that just to try to make myself a better leader, because I've been recognizing that, you know what I mean? You have to build up other people and try to, and not everybody wants that,
That's right.
And that's another thing I've realized. I've literally talked to people like, hey, how would you feel about someday being the head of this department? I'm like, you know what I mean? You can tell they're not really interested in it. So it's just, but yeah, I think the 5th level or whatever is like your people that you've built into leaders are building other leaders or something
yes, exactly
like that.
Yeah. Yes.
So what made you choose to come back to Jacksonville?
Quite simple. My father's health. My father was struggling. Actually, I got a call from my sister, who also lives in town, and she said, I think you have 2 hours to get here. It was that bad.
Oh, my gosh. Was he 120?
He was not 120. He was only 80, so it was too early.
Oh, my gosh.
He's now 84 and doing remarkably well.
Wow,
he
nice.
bounced back. Doctors say he's a medical miracle, and thank God for that. Once he bounced back fairly quickly, I said to my wife, I don't want to hear about my father's passing while I'm in a business meeting or inside a tank. Right?
Inside a tank.
Yeah.
Such a weird thing to
don't hear that all the time.
A weird option. Yeah.
And she said, I agree. Her parents had passed within 7 weeks of each other. One was a surprise, one wasn't. But she had been there.
Isn't
with
that
them.
interesting how that happens?
Yeah. And we have a saying in Hebrew, Gamzu Latov, this too is for blessing. So when adversity strikes, there's some blessing in there. It was a blessing that they went close to each other, because they would have struggled to be alone. They really were. They had that relationship.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you were there for them. I need to be there for my dad. Thank God I was in a situation where I could do that. Not everybody is so blessed. But once I realized I can do that, I want to do that, it was an easy decision.
Is that what prompted you to step away from the business?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. As I saw his needs increasing, my mom as well, she's in the area, not in Jacksonville, I thought, where are my priorities now? And I knew I could lead the company another 20 years, maybe 10. But would I have the focus when my priority was over here?
Right.
And that's not fair to the company,
And then
its
you just be
employees
doing
and
a
customers.
disservice to them.
Exactly.
Well, good for you. I actually started this business because my dad got sick.
Oh.
And I was going to my plan was to leave Springfield forever. Like I was going to move to Colorado. I was working at a company out of college. Any job wants 3 years, experience. So my plan was to get that experience and then move to Colorado where a bunch of my friends were. During that period, I met my wife, and my dad got sick with cancer, and then he battled cancer for a couple of years. I took a leave of absence from my job to take care of him, and we lost him back in 2015. And after I lost him, I just needed a change, and I had produced a couple of videos for people, just really enjoyed it, and I was like, and I was doing a little bit of side work, you know what I mean, for some people. But I just decided like I needed to change. So my routine was go to work. He lived right on the other side of the block from where I worked at before I grew up. So I'd go to work, go to his house after work, hang out with him for an hour, and then go home. And I just got to break. Like I got to break this. Like, you know what I mean? Because I know just every day leaving work, it would be like miserable. So after he passed away, I went back there and I was like, look, I appreciate you guys giving me the leave of absence. But I got to make a change. And that's kind of what prompted going this route.
Well done.
But he was only 67, I think.
That's young.
So, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
He was in the Navy too.
Oh, outstanding.
He was on submarines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
He had some pretty cool stories.
I'll bet he did.
Yeah, it's amazing how, and honestly, starting this business has kept me here, but also family. My wife has a very big family and they're very close, and I really love her family. They're great. They're all fun
That's
people. Awesome. So staying around here has, kept us close to them, and, it's been nice. I grew to appreciate Springfield more than I did when I was younger.
Right. I get it. Like, I appreciate Jacksonville now, and Springfield too, by the way, in a way I didn't as a kid. I could hardly wait to leave and, whatever, go to the big city and all that. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah. So you're doing a lot of things in Jacksonville, I hear. Investing in the town, helping rehab a lot of places. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
So my wife and I were walking around the square, which had really struggled and was coming back. And I was struck by how it was being renovated and businesses were coming back to it again, boutiques. This is interesting. I didn't expect this resurgence. So I went around and I interviewed every company I could find in Jacksonville. Small, medium, large, didn't matter. And I said, what gates your growth? What is inhibiting your growth? And they all said the same thing. We can't find young professionals. Engineers, accountants, doctors, lawyers, middle management, marketing, finance. We can't find them. I said, well, why not? And they said, well, there's two reasons. And there had been studies, too, by Morgan County, Jacksonville Main Street, Jacksonville Municipal, that backed all this up. Reason number one, no place to live. Well, that's empirically true. So I looked, and that day there were 20 homes for sale in Morgan County, about 10 of which were foreclosures or were close to that, so, not really options.
Right.
Whereas Springfield had 100, Springfield, the city, not all the suburbs around, had 142. So I'm like, well, okay, empirically this is true. The second reason was there's nothing to do. And I said, well, this is false. This is specious. Because if you get a critical mass of people together of any age group, they'll create things to do. Mm-hmm. Of course, we do need some amenities and things.
Yeah.
But
I didn't realize one of the things I came to appreciate with Springfield is I realized there was stuff to do.
There's stuff to do. Yeah. Growing up in Jacksonville, I thought there is no, other than hang out with your friends, play Dungeons and Dragons, there was nothing to do. Well, that wasn't true. I just didn't know. Anyway, so I came up with a thesis. If I could build housing that would attract young professionals, then those young professionals would come. Where do I build the housing? I'm looking around the square, and there's businesses popping up on the ground floor, little restaurants, boutiques. The upper stories are unused, completely unused.
Kind of like our downtown.
Exactly that. And I thought back, I told Lauren, my wife, I said, you know what, these upper stories were unused when I was a kid. I mean, they've been offices or something in the 1920s or 50s, but by the time I was there,
it's weird, isn't
nothing
it?
going on. I'm like, I got an idea. We'll buy a building. We'll renovate the ground floor, restaurant, retail, entertainment, right? Find some great tenants. And then we'll turn the upper floors into apartments, starter apartments for young professionals. The hiring is there, so they'll come to the town or they'll stay in town. They'll get that place. They'll get that job. We'll create kind of an urban oasis in a lovely rural setting, right? Mm-hmm. And then at some point, they'll meet that special someone, maybe have a child, get a second dog, and they'll want to spin out of that apartment. It won't be big enough. And they'll spin out into town and buy a home, and because they'll have that connective tissue to the town. Like you and I, they won't want to leave. Mm-hmm. And some percentage of them will be entrepreneurial, won't they? They'll see a gap in the market that my limited creativity would never notice, and they'll create a business. Well, what would they need? They'll need capital and they'll need advice. So we also started a venture fund to capitalize them, but mostly to give them advice. And I wish I'd listened to the advice I received when I started out. to help them get started, right? What does that do? Here's the real goal. It creates a much more economically diverse Jacksonville and Morgan County. Now, I have no problem if 3 employers come in and each hire 100 people. That'd be great. But if one of them closes, and Joseph Schumpeter reminds us they will close, that's devastating. But if we get 30 companies hiring 10 people each and one of them closes, that's sad. But it's not ruinous to the community.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can economically diversify, there's more opportunity, there's more entrepreneurship, and there's more resilience to the inevitable economic downturns. So the renovation of the buildings around the square that we bought, we started with one, but I never start with just one. It's like tanks. So all the buildings we're building the apartments out. All of them had a lot of deferred maintenance. All of the buildings are very old.
Yeah.
None of them were built to last 50 years. So if I were to resurrect the person who bought and built something and say, see what I'm doing in your building? They'd say, are you crazy? One of my buildings on the square sits on a lot. It's at least building number 6 on that lot. So somebody back in the day would buy a building, and the first thing they do is tear it down and build the purpose-built building for the thing they're going to do. You're in dry goods, I'm a blacksmith. You buy my building, you don't need a smithy building. You're not going to convert it.
Right.
You just level it and build a dry goods store. So, we're dealing with that. It's 100% philanthropy. There is no timeline on which I could ever make back the money. No. It's a
But I mean, that's awesome that you're in a position to be able to do that.
Yeah. It's a great gift. Blessings are best when shared.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is get those buildings back to zero, right? Now they are resilient. We're bringing back the original facade, so it's beautiful. It has that antique look, but inside it's all modern, right? It's modern everything for a modern way of living or a modern way of conducting business. And it's working. We've brought several new businesses or expanding businesses to the square. We've got a backlog of about 10 businesses waiting for space to open up.
Wow.
We've got a backlog of 41. I think I just read this morning, 41 people looking for apartments. The demand is there.
Wow.
Now I just got to finish building them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to do that. Like I had this idea of like once a year, like having somebody apply for like us to basically help them launch their business. You know what I mean? Because there's obviously some key things that go into a successful business. I mean, obviously you have to have a good product or service, and you have to have good people to run it or whatever. But what a lot of people lack is the digital side of it. They don't budget for that. They don't budget for a good website. They don't budget for the marketing. There's so many businesses here in Springfield that close, and I've never seen a single post come across my news feed from them. Yes. I'm like, how do I know what food you have or whatever it is? Right. And I hate to see that. So that's one thing someday when, we're in a better position to do that I hope to be able to do or whatever it may be, or help kids launch businesses or whatever it may be. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I actually at one point thought about being a teacher and teaching the stuff that I know from graphics and, stuff like that. Cause I just, I love sharing knowledge and, kids and everything. And, so yeah, no, that's awesome. You're doing that. That's really fun.
It's a lot of fun.
It's not by any means. During that process, what have you learned about community development that's surprised you?
Just how supportive people are. Government, other businesses, chamber-like entities, and the community. People really rallied.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised people are happy it's being done, right? It's nice to see a building look nice, but just the amount of support. How can I help you? Do you, hey, I've got 3 doors I didn't need for a building I'm doing. Do you need some doors? People showing up and saying, hey, I noticed this or that. Can I just fix that for you?
Yeah.
It's great. It's awesome to be in a community like that.
Yeah. Well, it's so many people leave their town and maybe they are really successful, but they're gone. You know what I mean? And it's like, they just don't come back or do anything. It's cool to see, you've gone away, you've been very successful, and you're coming back and giving to the community you grew up in and, shaped you, that formed you, that turned you into who you are, right?
Right.
I mean, if it wasn't for that program at Illinois College, like you might not have ever
wouldn't be
gone
here.
that route.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I'm still amazed that they had that back then, that they even had a professor to teach that.
Yeah.
Is Illinois College closed?
No, McMurray College closed.
Okay.
Illinois College, I'm happy. I'm one of their trustees. I'm happy to say they're doing very well. They're actually growing in enrollment. And they brought back the junior, what is it called, middle school now, middle school and high school student summer programs.
Oh, wow.
So they're doing that again, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, that is great. I'm just trying to see if I have anything else specific here that I wanted to ask you about, you know. What's the biggest challenge facing America that isn't getting enough attention, would you say?
Well, I think there's several. I think the biggest, well, I won't say biggest. One of the biggest is disconnectedness.
Mm-hmm.
We are
like
not
that
in
answer.
person nearly enough. We are on our devices, which is a false connection. Obviously, I'm not a Luddite. I'm a technology guy, right? I've got all kinds of tech, and I use it as a tool all the time. But it doesn't build bridges. It doesn't build bonds of trust. In fact, many studies have shown that social media is a great divider. It tends to become an echo chamber. And it's not by design necessarily. It's just that if you click on three things, then it's going to show you more of those types of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
It intensifies beliefs. It doesn't change them. It intensifies anger. But the thing that troubles me the most about all of that is it intensifies othering. You are the other. You're not like me. Now, I'll admit, this is a little personal because I'm a Jew. I know what it is to be othered. I've seen my children and my wife othered. I've seen all my family othered. I don't like it, which is why I refuse to do it, which is why I fight against it. My whole family does. So I think the biggest challenge is disconnectedness. If I sit down with somebody who has completely different views from me, I bet I can still find a reason to like that person.
Yeah. You
Right?
probably have more in common than not in common.
100%. And then I walk away with a friend. And it's easy, right? When I had somebody the other day say, I had a close friend. We've been close friends for 20 years. It was somebody in New York, good friend of mine in New York. I had a close friend, and I've cut him off. Why? Well, I just found out his political views are X. I said, but you've been close friends for like 20 years. I think it's closer to 30. Why does that matter? I mean, he's had those beliefs this whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just didn't know. Now you know. Did that erase 30 years of great memories? They go to football games together. He said, I'm not going to go to football games. I thought, oh my gosh, this is one of the most tragic stories I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
I've traveled the world. I've seen what tribalism can do. I've been in the areas where it's rampant and violent. I'm not saying that's going to come here. Not at all. It's not the American way. What I'm saying is that the downside of it is ugly and horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So disconnectedness is the one I worry about. The next, probably equal, the opioid epidemic. It's absolutely ruinous. I think it stems from a couple of things. One is disconnectedness, but the other is a lack of hope. If there's no avenue for me in life, then I might as well just party till I die. And I'm not saying that's exactly the thought process. If you look at the studies, it's not exactly it. But there is a sense of hopelessness that comes before addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's carried through addiction. Well, now I'm addicted. I've got a police record. I've got this. But it didn't start then, right? And again, 80-20 rule. 80% of people may feel that way, 20% don't. But I worry deeply about the opioid addiction and the hopelessness that begets it.
Mm-hmm.
So America-wide, those would probably be my biggest concerns.
Yeah, the disconnected thing is a problem for sure. Everybody, even my nieces and my niece and nephew, my brother's kids growing up. I remember when I was like, well, they ever go hang out with their friends? They're like, well, they just hang out with them on the internet. I'm like, that is so weird.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
they just hang out on the internet. Yeah, they just talk in chat rooms or play games, but they're in your town. Like they don't just go hang out with them. He's like, I don't know, man. That's what they do now. And I'm like, God, that is so hard to wrap my head around because, when I was a kid, like, I'd ride my bike all the way to, 10 miles to Lake
Right.
Town to go hang out at my friend's house.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Now now parents don't let their kids do that nowadays, which I don't know if that's just we're more informed or what the difference is there, if things are actually more dangerous. But yeah, it's a shame because, I have people in my life that I don't talk to because they think one thing or another, that I think one way or another. And everything has like caveats, right? Like you can believe this, but there are sides of that aren't true, or that I might believe a part of that, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's always like, it's frustrating, especially with politics now, because you're always picking, it seems like, from the lesser of two evils. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, neither of these people are good, right? But like, I just got to go this route because it's more of the things that I would like to see. But then all of a sudden, yeah, you're like, you're an evil person because of that or whatever, So it's...
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time in D.C. I lived in D.C. I still talk to people in D.C. every single day, sometimes several times a day, both parties. I never judge somebody by their politics.
Yeah.
Never. It may agree with me, it may disagree with me, but as I like to point out to people, who do you disagree with the most? Well, I could name 3 people. I said, nope, you're wrong. You disagree with you 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And if you tell me you don't, it's because you're not learning.
Yeah.
You give yourself the grace to disagree. How come you don't give it to other people?
Yeah.
It's fine. Disagree. Move on.
Well, and what's the other quote I have written in the bathroom? It's about beliefs. It says, how's it go? Basically, like, the important part of beliefs is to evolve our beliefs, not like be married to them, like be open to ideas, be open to discussion, not immediately just like, nope, that's wrong. Like, well, tell me why. Like, why do you think that way? Well, and have a conversation, but you have to be open-minded in that conversation. You can't just immediately like, nope, that's wrong.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely a scary part for sure. Those are good answers. So you've built companies, advised leaders, helping reshape the entire community. What legacy are you hoping to leave behind?
Children who aren't jerks.
How many kids you got?
3.
Okay.
And when they turn 12, that's when girls go through a bas mitzvah. 13 boys go through a bar mitzvah. So technically they're adults in the Jewish faith. But when they all turned 12, I sat them down and I said, do you know what your mom's and my job is? Well, you're our parents. And I said, yeah, but do you know, like, what does that mean? I guess we don't. I said, I don't know, you may have to bleep this out, but I said, our job is to not inflict another asshole on the world. I said, do you know any jerks? Yeah. I said, well, they're about your age? Yeah. I said, yeah, but when they're 20, they're not just jerks anymore.
Right.
And they cause damage.
Mm-hmm.
So I want my kids to be successful financially. I want them to be happy in their vocations, absolutely, and fulfilled. Mostly, I just want them to be good people.
My son, he's 7, I think, but when he was 6, he had this thing, and it was like, if I was president, and he had to write something, and he wrote, if I was president, I would help people up when bad people knock them down.
Oh,
I just thought that was the cutest thing. Like, I'm like, God, you have the purest heart, and that it's a shame because kids are pure at heart, you know what I mean? And at some point in their life, a lot of kids that gets taken away from for whatever reason it may be. Maybe it's a way their parents raised them or treated them. Maybe it's experiences they have, but they're just so pure. They don't care about your skin color, your religion, anything like that. They're
That's
just,
right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, when does that change? And it's so sad to see when that happens. All right. I got one more question for you. 50 years from now, when people talk about Rabbi Rob, what do you hope they say?
That's good. That's a really good question. Well, I hope they say that I was kind, unfailingly kind. And being kind and being nice are not the same thing. So somebody comes to you and says, hey, I really need help with this. Can you do this? And you're thinking, oh, man, I don't have the skills. I don't have the time. I've got this other thing I really need to do. Yeah, I can help you. That's being nice. And the reality is you're going to do it poorly. You're going to do it begrudgingly. Being kind is, no, I can't help you with that. I don't have the skills or the time. But could I help you find somebody who can help you with that? because I may have some connections, right? So I hope people say that I was unfailingly kind. I was always willing to help or help them find help. And I hope people think I left some part of the world better than I found it. That would be a really epic legacy.
Yeah.
If people could say that about me.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're helping leave that legacy in your hometown, which I don't think there's anything that you could be more proud of than that right there.
Thank you.
So hopefully that lives on and people will recognize that in the future. Legacy is a weird thing, you know. It's like when you're gone, it's like it doesn't really matter, but at the same time, like, you know, it's mostly like you said, are your kids good people? Are they going to do good things in the world or whatever it may be? Well, it was. I really loved talking with you today, hearing your story. Really appreciate you coming on, and I want to ride in a tank sometime.
Well, thank you for the gift of your time and having me here and sharing your story.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to share with the audience or say, or any final? You know, most of the time I have a business owner that's like, "Oh, go check out their website," but I don't know if there's anything that would be helpful from your standpoint that.
What I would tell your audience is tomorrow when you get up, make it your goal to make one person happier. Just give them a smile. That's your goal. Do that every day. There you go.
There you go. Love it. All right. Thanks, everybody.